which special populations are at high risk of homelessness?
Well, that's a great question. Another project we have right now called Homelessness Counts. We're actually going across the country, trying to work on that algorithm to see who is missing, who are the hidden homeless, and what are the homeless subgroups. So we've been talking to various communities, and it really is quite contextual in terms of the communities. There are some groups that we hear more often than others. For example, Indigenous peoples, we hear quite frequently. Youth, particularly youth exiting children's services, children's aid services, are at particular risk. Women or families fleeing domestic violence. So there are certain groups, but we do also find that it is quite contextual. In some of our rural communities that we've been visiting, we're finding lots and lots of first-time homelessness just because people of low income, they just lost that small buffer during the pandemic as well. So they couldn't deal with things like the rent increases as some of the market values were changing. They couldn't coast through that job loss in the same extent. So in some of our rural communities, it's quite surprising the extent of some of that first-time homelessness that we're seeing. So I think there are some common groups we hear about, but we always need to contextualize and understand the community. I think one of the huge problems in homelessness is the desire that we could just paint a big brush and figure it out and have one solution. And over again, we have found that the solutions for one group does not necessarily work for another. And in fact, sometimes it's the exact opposite. That needs to work for a different group. So the more we can tease it down to context, tease it down to specific subgroups, ultimately you want to get it down to the individual, but you make fewer errors if the more you can kind of drill down a bit.